Manchester City, first in the table, 53 points, versus Chelsea, second in the table at 43 points, a top of the table clash. This is coming at you Saturday morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. It's a lunchtime game over in the UK, so the whole nation will be watching. Manchester City is minus 150. Chelsea is plus 420, a giant number for a team that's second in the table. The draw is plus 290. If you like the spread a little bit better, Manchester City minus 0.5 remains at minus 150. Chelsea is at plus 130. Oh, baby, this is the game that you circle as soon as it gets issued. And I got to say, I mean, I've talked a lot the last couple of weeks about Chelsea's injuries and bemoaning their health and how unfair it was that everybody else had games canceled and they kept having to play despite this massive fixture pile up. And they're slowly working their way through it. I mean, they're still shredded on these sides with both of their fullbacks kind of out for an extended period of time and piecing that together through duct tape. But, you know, watching them play against Tottenham the last 2 weeks in the League Cup, they were piecing it back together. Conte came back out. And, he looked fairly mobile. He looked fairly good. All their attackers at least got a rollout out there. Their back line is slowly but surely recovering. So I don't think they're full strength, but they certainly aren't the half strength we saw before. So, Brett, I'm going to let you have the honors first in this game because obviously I cannot be trusted in being objective, but you can. So why don't you tell the people what you see in this game, and then I'll give my Chelsea pick at the end.
You know, the first step in progress is admitting you have a problem. I'm proud of you, man. You know, honestly, and I'm not doing this to placate you because you signed my checks, but the draw at plus 300, this match, it just feels like a match where it's hard to see these two teams separate, right? So these are legitimately probably the two of the at least 5 best defensive clubs in the world. So a goal fest seems completely just out of the possibility. And, you know, City is incredible. You know, Riyad Mahrez is at the African Cup of Nations, but like, we've talked about this before. They lose a guy like Mahrez, then they plug in Gabriel Jesus. Phil Foden actually gets to play. Grealish actually gets to play. Bernardo Silva moves up to the wing. Gundogan comes into the midfield. So they're incredible, but like at the same time, Chelsea is getting healthy. You know that Tuchel is going to come in with a good game plan, and this just feels like a game that's going to be a kind of a knockdown, drag out fight where no one is going to separate, which means you're going to be in that margin of error for the fluky goal, the set piece goal, Rudiger actually like keeping his 60-yard drive up the field and shot below the crossbar and past Ederson.
No chance.
No chance.
No chance.
But no, this does kind of seem like a game that's going to be uglied up enough that you're going to get those goals. Chelsea was really good against Liverpool, who again is kind of on that same-ish tier as City, although City is really pulling away. And they played them even. And I think that's a good sign. And we talked about this on previous podcasts. Tuchel has lots of options. And when I was starting out my hot take at ROM, we talked about them moving to a formation in a match like this, where they could go to like a 5-3-2 instead of that 3-4-3, sacrifice an attacker, go with like a Conte, Kovacic, Jorginho midfield with Rom and maybe like Timo Werner up top. But I'm asking you, with all their injuries, with the fact that Tuchel's messed around with the back four recently in cup matches that they've done pretty well in, what do you want to see? What gives you the most confident in a bet when they roll this out? Like, you're the Chelsea guy here. Like, feed me info on Chelsea. Give me that insider scoop.
Yeah, so I think when Pep and Tuchel get together, they can't help but show off. And so there's going to be a heavily tactical, well-organized match that's going to take place here. And so I think the draw is a good bet. I think it's going to be very close one way or the other. So draw 1-0, either way, whatever it might be. And I think Tuchel is probably going to try to surprise Pep a little bit. So, like, I don't think we'll see a hard 3-4-3 the entire match. I think we'll see a little bit more of a fluid lineup. When he went to the 4 in the back recently, it kind of morphed as you watched it. Like, it looked like a 4-2-2-2, and it looked like, you know, a 4-4-2. They looked like a 4-2-4. They looked like a 3-4-3. They looked like a 5-3-2. Like, the positioning on the field changed a lot based on the way the game was flowing. So, like, while Tuchel absolutely has in his bag and has made Chelsea extraordinarily successful, just a well-drilled 3-4-3 and without changing that much, I think the injuries and I think putting Azpilicueta kind of all over the field because he has that flexibility has allowed him this new found, I don't want to use the word freedom, but let's just say space to explore. And I think he's going to try to show off. I mean, show off has a negative connotation. I
Yeah.
think that just like in the Champions League final, the lineup and the tactics that everybody was talking about going into it won't necessarily be the end result, because if it's predictable, Pep's going to counter. Pep knows how to counterpunch anything he can predict. So the best way to actually get the Pep is to throw him off stride a little bit. And I think Tuchel's one of the best in the world at being able to do that.
I mean, at full strength, like if you had to put out like your most confident rankings of Chelsea's attackers, and I mean, I'm a big Mason Mount guy. We've talked a little bit about Ram on the pod. I think Werner, even though he misses every chance that he gets, it brings a lot with his runs in behind. I mean, as a Chelsea fan, like who gives you the most confidence going out against City? I'm genuinely interested to hear this because every single one of their attackers brings something different to the table, and we've kind of touched on all of them throughout. So I'd love to see, like, from a perspective of somebody who watches them match in, match out, like who are the guys that give you the best chance against City, do you think?
Yeah, so this is where Tommy tactics really comes in, right? Because if he's actually going to play something like a 5-3-2 and attack and sacrifice an attacker and try to sit back as hard as he can and really drill in the back line of the defense, then you got to play Timo because you're hoping to catch one on the counter, and Timo's speed allows that to become much more of a probability versus, Lukaku or anyone else. But if he's actually going to try to dictate the action a little bit and take advantage of having Conte kind of dominating the midfield, if he's back to full form, I think you have to play Lukaku at that point, because you're going to need somebody that, as you kind of turn the ball over in the midfield, can then, kind of break down the low block that Pep might set up. So I guess I defer a little bit to what Tuchel wants to accomplish. I have the most confidence in Lukaku, which sounds strange, of those two options of Werner and Lukaku, because Lukaku, everyone wants to talk about being a bust, but he is very influential against big, well-organized teams because he gives you a tactic that you otherwise don't have.
Well, he also is huge against a team like City that presses, because he links up play better than Timo,
Yes.
right? It's like if you see Timo in a starting 11 and you're figuring out how to bet, like Timo is going to be, in my opinion, and you can correct me as the Chelsea expert here, he's going to be that guy that runs in behind. He's like a boomer bust guy. Like he's the baseball player that's like a zero sum dude. He's hitting a home run or he's fucking striking out. And Ram does a lot more, especially later in his career, especially playing with Lautaro Martinez at Inter, at like linking play, playing guys in. And that's why like a two with them is really interesting. But like each of them without the other means that like Chelsea's going to play in a different way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Lukaku does have that big outlet against that press. Like even if it's just lumping it up, towards the center line to kind of beat some of the pressure and get that relief. So that's what I would expect to see. I would expect to see Havertz, Lukaku, and Mount is who I would expect to see. And I wish
we could bet on that, because that's the exact three that I would be anticipating too.
Yeah, and so if we see Lukaku, Havertz, and Mount, we're going to see. He's got to play Conte as much as he possibly can. Conte is the most important player on the pitch for Chelsea, because he's got to have coverage for those wings. I mean, like if it's Alonso and Azpilicueta, take all the João Cancelo bets you can find, which we're leading to. Like
I already take all the João Cancelo bets that you can find.
But if that's the wings, like forget about it. Like I don't know what they're gonna do. So I think they're more likely to play Pooley or Hudson-Odoi out of position, even though the other two are more traditional fullbacks, just for the speed element, just to try to close down some of the space, just to try to shrink the field, because otherwise it's going to be a big pitch, and Manchester City dominates space, and you just got to give them as little as possible.
I agree, man. And I'm genuinely excited. We only have a few more of these like prime time Premier League matchups left. And this one, to me, between two of probably the most tactically, and this is like no disrespect to Klopp. I think, Klopp is a not necessarily like an ideal log or anything like that. He's obviously very tactically good. But these two managers are two of the most interesting, like tactical, like chess movers, chess piece movers in all of soccer. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. I think Tuchel could lay out all these formations that we talked about. I think the way that he structures his team is going to dictate the flow of the entire match, which is weird to say when you're talking about Pep Guardiola's City being his opponent, that the way Tuchel sets up may dictate the match. But it's going to be super interesting. And it's also something that, like, as a bettor, like, this is kind of fun because this is where you could see a starting 11 with a certain group of players, and it may influence the line in ways that maybe the market doesn't catch right away. And
Yeah.
that's why I think these matches are awesome, because they're not only super exciting to watch, they're super exciting as a fan, they're super exciting as like a tactics dork, but also I think they give you interesting edges that come about from the starting 11 that just markets maybe not aren't dynamic enough to catch.
Yeah, I mean, something I've thought a lot about, Brett, as we've been doing this podcast is like one reason I like betting on soccer so much is because like you can look at most recent results, and that's one way to do analysis. And certainly I'm guilty of that. And most people that talk about soccer are just the first thing they gravitate to, like what's their current form, what's the results in the last five, et cetera, and so forth. But when it comes to betting, that's less important than if you are capable of understanding the flow of the game and like what's the most likely interchange of tactics that's going to happen, because then you can spit out things like corners and cards and things like that, and shots on target, and like who's most likely to get the shots on target and where is this going to come in the field, things that are far less efficient betting markets and that you cannot tell by looking at, Manchester City won their last game 1-0. And so like if you're listening to Brett specifically and you're getting into soccer gambling, listen to the tactical breakdowns and then have that spill over to how you bet beyond just, I think it's going to be Man City's going to win and, Harry Kane is good, so I'm always going to take him as anytime goal scorer. You'll have a lot more wins under your belt that way.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's a great point too, because you brought this up before, that like the player props are, of anything, the most inefficiently priced things on the market. And so those player props obviously change. Like, like we're both Mason Mount fans, but if Tuchel comes out and he plays like a 5-3-2 and Mount's like part of the midfield, he's going to operate differently than he will if he's part of a three. And let's say it is Werner and Lukaku up top. Lukaku is going to be the link player. Werner is going to be the one running it on goal. So despite all like soccer knowledge in the world saying Rom is a better, more efficient goal scorer, the guy that actually might end up with the most chances is Werner. So you can go look at his anytime goal scoring odds, see if it's something that, plays out with the math and give it a run. So like, this is why this match is so fun. I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be really fun, and I hope people make some money off of it too.
Yeah, I think the single most interesting part of the game when it comes to gambling is like, what do you think is a win for Tuchel? Does he actually believe that they can mount a title challenge? Because if he actually believes they can mount a title challenge, then he has to go for the win, because they're not making up the points unless it gets a win. And like losing 5-0 versus losing 1-0, like who cares? Because all you care about is the 6 points that are on offer here. I don't think it's going to play out that way. I don't think he wants to get embarrassed, and I think there's going to be a very tight game. And for Manchester City, a draw is a win. Like in order to win the title here, if you're looking at it that way, like a draw is a massive win. Like all they have to do is draw and stay level, and they're still, way up on the table and halfway home to lifting the cup and getting the kind of the guard of honor by April or early May, whenever that might happen. So
yeah, it might be end of February at this point.
Since I don't think that they're going to go for broke, I think it's going to be just a tactical battle, as if this was the first game of the season, not somebody that Chelsea's 11 points behind or whatever their current. They're 10 points behind on the table. I'm taking Chelsea plus 130 on the spread. So a draw or a Chelsea win gets plus 130. Because I think, Manchester City, I think a draw is a win for them. I think it's going to be an extraordinarily tight game, and getting that with a plus number in front of it, when a draw, Manchester City will be happy with and might even game plan for, I think is a positive bet here.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and I'm going all in the draw because my prop, as much as I sit here talking about player props being inefficiently priced and all that shit, my thing is actually going to be a game prop with the draw at 1-1-2-2-3-3 at plus 425. Because I
Hmm.
don't really see this being so much a zeros, like a 0-0 stalemate, right? I do think that there are going to be goals. Like it's hard to stop City from scoring, and Chelsea has enough different ways of scoring that I think that they can nick one somewhere, whether it is on the break, whether it is from settled possession, whether it is from a free kick, whether it's from a corner, with one of their center backs coming up. So I do think that there's more potential for Chelsea to win in different phases or score a goal in different phases of the game. So, I mean, we're talking about player props, but I do think that game prop with the draw is still probably going to be one of your most inefficiently priced things.
What it's funny. So obviously, I've thought more about this game than every other game combined. So I wrote down a lot of the props that I like. The ones that I like, Lukaku to have a shot on target in each half is plus 450. I think it's going to be a lot of trying to play, wide back to the middle, or trying to break down, a compact defense and using Rom as a big figure to try to get either headers on goal or something loose in the box, whatever it might be. So I think that's a great number. Shot on target each half 450. The African Cup of Nations has obviously ravaged a lot of teams, and for Chelsea, it took our all-world goalkeeper, and so we have to play our all-world
Kepa,
disappointment and Kepa.
Kepa.
And Kepa kind of doesn't do great with shots from distance. And if I know
That
that,
would be
certainly.
for those of you who are novices, that is an extreme understatement. He is literally one of the worst goalkeepers in the Premier League, allowing goals from outside the box.
So if I know that, and Brett knows that, and everybody knows that, then Pep knows that, and all the midfielders and fullbacks on Manchester City know that. So De Bruyne to score from outside the box, or João Cancelo to score from outside the box, I think are
Yeah.
both solid bets, because I think they're both going to be licking their lips at Kepa and his box blindness. Rudiger to get a card is plus 200,
That's a
because
good one.
I think he knows that shithousery is about their only way that they're going to make this a fair fight, and there's no one more skilled in the dark arts than him. If they do play a back four, Rudiger's not that great in a back four. One reason he's become one of the best defenders in Europe is he excels in a back three instead of a back four. So if they do have to play a back four and he has to cover more space, I could absolutely see him dragging guys down, coming in with 2-footers or whatever. And even if they don't, I can see them finger wagging, shithousing, et cetera, to get a card. So I like that one. As I said, if it's Alonso and Azpilicueta, Zhao to have an assist is plus 450. I would love that one of that one, because he's got so much space to create out on the flanks. So those are all ones I like after giving this game way more thought than anybody listening to this probably has. The final one I'm going to go with, though, is a little bit in the face of what you just said. I'm going with under 2.5 goals at plus 105. The 6 results you get are 0-0, 1-1, and then 1-0 or 2-0 to either side. And I think that's 6 of the 7 most likely score lines versus the other one being 2-1. So if I can get 6 of the 7 most likely score lines and one bet with a plus in front of it, then I like that number.
Oh, that's a lot of faith in Kepa, baby. It's a lot of faith in Kepa to stop those shots from going in.
And as long as Conte's on the field, who says they're ever going to get a shot?
Oh, there you go. Touche.
I know. I watched the Champions League final just like you did. Conte absolutely dominated them. And then when he couldn't, Rudiger football tackled everybody he saw until there was nothing left. So.
And the key to success against Manchester City, have a goal at Conte and let Rudiger tackle people.